welcome to Max Q. We're really excited today to have Yogi Left. Oh, let me say your name wrong first. Let's
Letfus. Let's make a fuss.
make a fuss. Yes. And Yogi is the Director of Sales. I'd like to make you VP of Sales right now, Yogi, and just call you that. But anyway, Yogi is Director of Sales at Linear. And Molly and I have the pleasure of working with Yogi on a daily basis, which is really, really fun. He is the sales master. He and I talk all the time about sales, and I look forward to hearing Yogi talk about sales from his perspective, not from my perspective of how Yogi does sales. So Yogi, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yogi Letfus. As you can probably tell from the accent, I originated from a different country, New Zealand.
It's the main reason we're having you on, actually. The accent.
Yeah. Everybody loves somebody with an accent.
Yeah, well, and how did I land in the US? Well, that's a long story, but I've been living here for 10 years now, married to an American. We have 2 kids. My experience in sales comes from family business to start with. My family owned was the largest print finishing business in New Zealand. And I grew up in that from as early as I can remember. So I have my education is business management, and somehow I drifted into sales. So I was always involved with the family business and in a myriad of different roles. We had at our biggest about 160, 170 staff. I ran our customer services team. We had a transport company. I worked in that for a while. So I kind of grew up in there and did my apprenticeship in there, to say, and then I went to university and studied business management. And then for a while there, I decided I wanted to run a restaurant, and my dad's desk sat opposite mine. It was one of the hardest decisions I'd ever made, leaving a family business. And we were talking, and he said, "Go and do it." So I spent 1.5 years running a restaurant with his full support. And then that was a great experience. I loved it. That taught me more skills. And talk about sales on the fly when you're running a restaurant and you've got people walking in the door all the time and you're talking to them constantly. I'm good at talking, by the way.
What kind of food is it, though? That's what I really want to know.
We had a wood-fired pizza oven restaurant, and this was a few years ago, before they were very, very popular. So I did burn all the hair off on my arms once when I was first practicing, because I am also a firm believer that you should learn what you're selling and what you're doing and have a base knowledge of it. So I was very keen to learn as much as I could about wood-fired pizza ovens. So yeah, that was good. And then decided that how I got to the US was I decided to go to the UK to work. And some friends said, "You should go and do a summer camp on the way." So in my early 20s, I decided to come and work at a summer camp. And I did 5 years coming back and forth from New Zealand, working at a summer camp here in Washington, up in the San Juan Islands. And yeah, I was lucky enough that I had a family business that I was able to contract back to, and I always arrived at the busiest time, and I left just as things were slowing again. So there was always a slot for me to fall back in, and I knew our customer base so well. So I did a various amount of different things in those times. At one point, we took over another company, and I went and took those 15 staff and brought them into our place and trained them. So it was really good for me, because it was a lot of different work and different situations that I was thrown into for that time. So that really gives you a little bit about how I got to here.
No, actually, as I was listening to you, I kind of thought of our first what if. I would love to. Can I ask it, Ann?
Go for it.
I would love to ask this. Okay. So you talk to people a lot. As a founder of a business, you're going to have to talk to people. Now, sometimes the founders are not necessarily salespeople. Sometimes they're the techies, right? Who have this great idea and they're bringing it forward. So for people who are maybe not extroverted, people who are introverted, people who are the techies, how would you go about instructing them to tell their story? What are some tips and tricks that they might be able to use to have other people get passionate about what they're doing?
Passion comes through in your story. And I've found with founders that we deal with, it's amazing the level that you go to when you start talking about something you're passionate about. And I think sometimes you forget that you're nervous to talk to people because you're so wound in and getting them to listen to, this is what I'm doing and I love it and I'm doing this and this is how I'm getting here. So I think a lot of the times founders, that's what the success is there, right? The passion for it, because you want to listen and you want to tell people about it and they want to listen to you. In one of my lessons learned through many years in sales, I got put into a situation where I started presenting to rooms full of people. Funnily enough, it's not my favorite thing to do. I really love talking to people, but my comfort zone was people that one-on-one, great, 10 people, great. When I got into a room with 150 people that I didn't know, I suddenly went, oh, I don't like this at all. So I figured that out quick. And I think the thing you got to do is figure things out quickly and figure out ways to get around it. So, I think I've told you the story. I started standing out the front, and as people would come in and sign in, I'd say, "Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you." Now those 150 people, I'd met over half of them at the front door, and mentally I was like, "I know them now. I'm good." And that's how I got around that. I mean, like, it's like everything. You do it once, you're scared. Twice, you get less. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and all of a sudden, it just becomes natural to you, and you just keep doing it. But I think your original question, it's about your passion. Your passion will come through when you're talking to people, and people will listen and ask questions, and that'll build that confidence for you of being able to talk to people. I had a manager, and this is a good one, who taught me years ago. We were going to a meeting and he said, "What are your 10 things?" I said, "What do you mean 10 things?" And he said, "Oh, you don't have a list of 10 things that when the conversation goes quiet, you're going to throw that in?" And I'd moved past that point. I just have always got a list of things, because a lot of the times you're trying to find things that you've got in common with people.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be, hey, do you cycle? Where do you live? Oh, yeah, do you like, because it's not all about work, remember, it's about balance. So you've got to find people's passion sometimes and talk about their passion as well to get the conversation. And usually you'll find something that you're aligned on. And that's what I find. You just find that common thing and get talking, and breaks those barriers.
Good answer.
Very good answer.
Do you want to ask the next what if?
I think my big question about what if I don't know what my next step is to make my next sale? What do I do when I feel kind of stuck?
Good question.
I don't know where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do.
That's a tough. It'll be good to see your answer, because Anne's a phenomenal salesperson too. So I'm excited to see how Yogi would answer this differently than Anne.
I always look for the why. I think we've talked about this a little bit lately in some of our meetings, right? Is sometimes you've just got to go back to basics. Why? Why and who? Who's my target audience? Have I got sidetracked? Like, take a breath, step back and go, what are we here for? What am I trying to do? Who am I trying to do it with? And do I have those people that I'm approaching right now? And that helps you steer. To me, that's it. I mean, it's take it back to basics, because we sometimes like to complicate things a little bit too much, right?
Yep, definitely.
And then you start asking why on and how of, do I have the right people? Have I got the right message? And we constantly do this. You're never going to get it right all of the time. So you have to adjust as you go and go, okay, well, this is what I thought was going to work. Let's talk to some people. That's not working. It's not resonating with them. Okay, let's do something else. Let's try something else. So I think it's important to listen to other people, ask the why, and get other people involved, because sometimes more voices and listening help you get out of the rut you're in, maybe, and find a new course. And I think it's important too not to get too deep in the rut, because you got to where you are, and hopefully you've had success on that way. And sometimes you steered off course a little bit. Now we've got to get the wheels back and going again, you know?
Yogi, thanks so much. This is really fun.
Yes.
And we'll see you tomorrow at work.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you both.